Good morning. Another beautiful day in the land called the USA. Thank you for joining us. My name is Charles Senior, CEO of Anti-Fragility Health, and Dr. Daniel Johnson.
Thank you. Nice.
Conversations with Daniel Johnson. Well, sometimes in this conversation, I wonder, are you the one, am I conversing with you or you're conversing with me?
I believe it's mutual.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we have Una in the audience. She'll be joining us later. So we want to talk today about a topic that is your most favorite topic. I didn't mean dating beautiful women. I meant thyroids and adrenals.
Yes.
Yeah, because your most favorite topic was the other thing I spoke about. But your second most favorite topic is adrenals and thyroid. Why is that, Dr. Johnson? I don't mean the dating beautiful women.
Well, because adrenals and thyroid are so fundamental and basic to our health. Okay.
How come I didn't know that?
Well, I think you did.
No, I mean before I met you.
Well, I don't know, because mainstream medicine simply doesn't look at it that way, I suppose.
Yeah, because a lot of people talk about adrenal fatigue and all those sort of things.
Yes.
But that's been dismissed by Western medicine as saying there is nothing like adrenal fatigue. But you feel that this is a very, very important based on your practice.
Yes, in mainstream medicine, we're basically taught that the adrenals are either functioning normally or they're wildly overactive, and that's called Cushing's disease, or they're not functioning at all, and that's called Addison's disease.
And those diseases are just at the extremes.
At the extremes.
Yes.
So the obvious question that even a third grader could figure out is, okay, if you start here, which is ideal, and you end up with adrenal fatigue, didn't you go through these intermediate steps to get there?
Exactly.
Yes, of course. There's no other
Yes.
possibility. If you start here and go over here where the adrenals are wildly overactive, didn't you have to go through these steps?
Yeah, those incremental steps.
Yes.
And because our focus is around wellness,
Yes.
we are interested in those incremental steps before we arrive at a total chaotic level.
Sure. The Cushing's disease here or the Addison's disease over here, these are life-threatening diseases. In
Yes.
fact, President John F. Kennedy had Addison's disease.
Wow.
And
So
if they had not given him the appropriate doses of prednisone every day, he would have died.
wow,
Okay?
that's amazing.
We cannot survive if our adrenals have completely ceased to function. Think of adrenals as the body's stress glands.
Okay.
We all have stress, we all have internal stress, we all have external stress. And if your adrenals are going along and they're perfectly normal, perfectly happy, and all of a sudden you get a severe stress, your adrenals will go into overdrive to produce more of the stress hormones to help you cope with the stress. And in the short term, that's very helpful. But if you have chronic stress and they stay in overdrive, that is very harmful, because
And those hormones are
cortisol
and DHEA.
well, cortisol is the main one.
Okay, and that's the one that we measure
Yes.
in the urine specimen to see your
Saliva.
Yes, sorry, in the saliva specimen,
yes.
to see your overall cortisol awakening response.
Yes.
And how it works throughout the day.
Yes, yes.
All right, interesting.
So if your adrenals test overactive, we need to we need to calm them down
Okay.
to get them back to normal. If they're underactive, we need to stimulate them and bring them back to normal.
Yeah, so that sometimes I don't have problems with my cortisol being too high. I have problems with my cortisol being too low in the late afternoon.
Okay.
So I take TruAdapt,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I stop yawning and I'm back in form.
All right.
Right.
Yes.
So everyone should ensure that they actually have done this testing,
Yes.
which is a saliva test.
Yes.
And it will tell you what levels are your cortisol during the 24-hour period.
Yeah. So what might tell you that you have an adrenal problem? Well, if you're overweight, it could be related to adrenals, not necessarily, but that's
Yes.
one of the possibilities.
Yeah.
If you have high blood pressure, it could be related to adrenals. If you have difficult weight loss, it could be related. And if your energy fluctuates throughout the day, you know, some people say, oh, I'm a morning person. I have tons of energy from the time I wake up till noon, but then by 3 I start to crash, and by 5 o'clock I could barely function.
Yes.
And other people say, oh no, I feel terrible when I wake up in the morning, I can't get going, but by bedtime, boy, I'm raring to go, I'm full of energy. So those are indications that your adrenal function is not what it should be.
And the adrenal function, like you said, is triggered by the stresses.
Yes.
Mostly the external stresses.
Well,
and the internal stresses.
It can
too.
be just as much
Yeah.
from the internal
And
stresses.
our lives are stressful.
You think?
Right? Well, today you'll be driving for 2 hours back to the desert.
Yes.
That's stressful. Right?
To a certain extent.
Well, yes, because if you had a chauffeur, then it will be less stressful.
Oh, I don't know.
You wouldn't trust the driving of the chauffeur.
I want to be in charge. I want
Oh,
to be
right.
able to,
That's the problem. So you love that stress of being in charge. You know, you almost had an issue the last time you were driving.
yeah, but it wasn't my fault.
So, no, I understand. I'm just saying the stress of
Yeah.
being present
Yeah.
and living the life.
Yeah.
So talk to us more about, you were going to say some things more about the adrenals.
Okay, so what else might be a tip-off that you may have adrenal problems? If your eyes are sensitive to bright light,
Okay.
that could be an adrenal problem.
I used to think that those were people who just didn't want to work for me because I use very bright lights. They were intimidated by brightness.
Yeah.
They're like rats. They want to stay in dark places.
I'm not sure why you'd hire rats, but okay.
Well, they were behaving like rats.
I
yeah.
see.
So,
Okay.
so that's a sign of saying you have low adrenals or high adrenals.
If your eyes are sensitive to light, that's
Yes.
a sign you may have low adrenals.
Okay.
If you feel worse after strenuous exercise, exercise is supposed to make us feel better, but if you feel worse after strenuous exercise, odds are you have low adrenals.
Okay, interesting. And how do we get our adrenals back into functioning mode?
Well, there's certain supplements, certain vitamins, minerals, and herbs that are very helpful.
Yes.
Certain glandulars that can be helpful.
Yes.
And frequency-specific microcurrent (FSM).
Yeah, could help heal.
Is extremely helpful.
Okay.
Prior to the FSM coming on the scene, when patients had either overactive or underactive adrenals, I would typically tell them it's probably going to take at least 12 to 18 months to get your adrenals back to normal.
Wow.
Now with the addition of FSM, we can usually get them back to normal within about 3 months.
Wow, that's
So
wonderful.
it's a huge difference.
So we've spoken again on these conversations about our FSM treatment downstairs, which I'm doing for my kidney. I think I'm also going to do for my adrenals because I want to get all my organs and glands at optimal function. So
Absolutely.
that was adrenals.
Yes.
What's our next topic around adrenals?
Well, our next topic would be thyroid.
All right. Where do the adrenals sit? Around the liver?
No, you have two adrenals, one on top of each kidney.
Ah, they're sitting on top of the kidney.
Yeah. In medical terminology, we use the term renal to refer to kidneys.
Yes.
Okay. Adrenal. It's a little gland. If this is the kidney, it's a little gland that sits on the top of it.
kidney.
We've added it to the renal, so it's adrenals.
Adrenal.
That's where the name came from.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good teaching.
Yes.
And then now we're going to the thyroids, and
Yes.
they are located somewhere up here.
Thyroid gland is in the front of your neck between your Adam's apple and the top of your
You
breastbone.
would think that God would have put all the glands in the same place. Like, here, let me put them in storage here, put some big keys around it, but then he distributes it all over. Is there a reason why the adrenals are there and the thyroid is up here?
I'm sure there is, but we don't know what that is.
Until you go there, you would then check with him.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would think that if you put all the important glands in one spot and then you had a severe injury to that spot, then that injury would be
So
fatal.
God knew that we would be living with some dangerous people around.
Yeah, he didn't put all
Lions and
he didn't
tigers.
put all his money in the same bank. He
Yes,
spread it around
yes.
a little bit.
But he put all the brain in one spot.
Yeah, well.
He should have distributed the brain to other parts.
Well, a big part of our brain is actually in our
The
gut.
stomach, yes, exactly. Well, okay, thyroid.
Thyroid. So thyroid is the master metabolism hormone.
He's like the big conductor of metabolism.
Yes, yes. And so your thyroid can be normal, it can be overactive, which fortunately is very uncommon, but it does exist. But what we're really talking about today is underactive thyroid, which is extremely common.
I have that condition.
So do I.
Yes,
So does
and
my
I-
brother. So does my mother. So does one of my daughters. There tends to be a genetic
So
predisposition.
my daughter should check because
Probably.
perhaps she needs it.
Probably.
Right, since she's been spinning a lot and trying to lose weight. And you know, since I started taking my thyroid,
Yeah.
I noticed that my love handles that I introduced yesterday have been diminishing.
Oh no,
Which is
not
like
that.
a loss of assets. It's like a loss of my assets.
Well, love handles are here. Assets are down a little lower.
Oh, it depends which assets you were talking
Yes,
about.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I have a collage of assets.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, with low thyroid, it is my impression, based on what I see in my practice, that mainstream doctors are missing perhaps 80 to 90% of the cases of low thyroid.
Yes.
And when they do diagnose low thyroid, they treat with a synthetic thyroid hormone, which is not nearly as effective as bioidentical hormones.
Okay.
So I've had many patients over the years come to me and say, I've been diagnosed with low thyroid, I've been on this Synthroid, the synthetic stuff, I've been on it for 5 years, doesn't seem to be doing too much good. I keep telling my doctor that it's not working, and he does a blood test and says, oh, your thyroid's fine, have a nice life, don't
Yes.
worry about it.
So I want to explore two things there. One is what's bioidentical. I
Okay.
want to make sure people understand.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, a bioidentical hormone is biologically identical at the molecular level. In other words, if you took your own thyroid hormone T3 and the bioidentical T3 from the pill that we would give you, and you looked at these molecules under the microscope, they're absolutely identical in every way. And your body recognizes them as such.
Yes.
When you give synthetic hormones have always been altered a little bit,
Yes.
and so they look similar to the real thing, but they're not identical. And when they're similar but not identical, typically we don't get as much benefit from them, and we have a much higher likelihood of side effects.
It's like getting a fake Wagyu
Well,
steak. You wouldn't know the difference since you don't know the original.
that could be.
Yes.
But here's what I think is a good analogy.
Yes.
Let's pretend that you've driven out through the desert in July and you're on some back road and your car breaks down and there's nobody else out there, there's no cell service. After some time has passed, you've now finished your entire supply of water. Now you're dehydrated, and if this goes on much longer, you're not going to survive.
Yes.
Okay? So, let's suppose that I happen to come along on this
Yes.
deserted road,
Yeah.
and I see you're in trouble, and I pull over, and I have some extra water. I give you the water, and just as you're about to drink this water,
Yeah.
it's going to save your life.
Yes.
Some other guy comes along and he sees the situation. He says, wait. Don't drink that water. Try this synthetic water substitute. I invented this in my garage last weekend. Wait a minute, a synthetic water substitute? Why on earth would
I
anybody
drink that?
drink that when the real thing is available?
You're such a nice guy. I thought you were going to say it's a urine sample. Yeah, but you are not a bad guy like I am.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't have those bad genes.
Yes, I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
So, okay,
So-
that's a very important.
Yeah, so this is true not just for thyroid, but it's true for estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, melatonin, growth hormone, whatever other hormones you want to talk about.
Yeah. The bioidentical.
Bioidentical is absolutely the way to go.
Yeah. So, testing for thyroid.
Okay.
Your favorite conversation.
Yes, blood test will give us the most accurate readings. We need to do 3 different tests. We need to do TSH, free T4, free T3. Now, in mainstream medicine, doctors typically just do a TSH. If they're willing to add another test, they'll typically do a T4. They don't usually do T3, and they almost never do free T3. Both the T4 and T3 hormones are mostly bound up to protein in your bloodstream. And that's the equivalent of putting handcuffs on them. They can't do anything.
Yes.
They're inactivated.
Yes.
So the tiny fraction that is freed up from the protein is free to do its job. So
sounds like the free testosterone thing.
yes.
Every hormone has to be free. Most of them are bound up. They're slaves. They're not free
There
to
you
do
go.
their job.
That's right.
That's why we talk about freedom a lot
Yes,
here,
yes.
don't we?
Yes.
So we want the free T3. They're free to do the active job,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And not the bounded ones. And that's why you need to have knowledge and don't be stupid. TSH, thyroid, stimulating hormone.
Hormones. Now, there's an important piece of this that everybody should understand. TSH does not measure your thyroid function by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Then why on earth is it the most commonly done thyroid test? Well, that's a good question. What TSH measures is your pituitary gland's reaction to your thyroid hormone levels. Now, if your pituitary is functioning perfectly, then TSH theoretically should be pretty accurate. But the reality is that the same types of things that cause low thyroid also tend to cause low pituitary function. And when that's the case, then the TSH as a standalone test doesn't tell us the information we're looking for.
I think next week we'll go into a deep hormone conversation.
All right.
Because the pituitary stimulation is the same thing with the luteinizing hormone, and the same thing with the follicle stimulating hormone, and now with the thyroid stimulating hormone. So it looks like something is there. That's a way we could control a lot of people, have them like engineer their hormone systems. But it's interesting when you talk about these different levels and just how much people suffer not knowing that the cause might actually be something that could be corrected very easily.
Yes. So what symptoms might we see with low thyroid? Well, there are about 25 different symptoms that we can choose from. Nobody has all 25. Some people may have 8 or 10. I just did a consultation 30 minutes ago with a lady who ended up with 17 symptoms of low thyroid.
Wow.
Okay. Now, that doesn't absolutely prove low thyroid, but when we get the testing back next week, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't show low thyroid.
And that would begin to help her get back into some good shape of health.
So the types of symptoms that we can choose from for low thyroid, nobody will have all of these, but you could be having palpitations, you could be having headaches, you could be having cold hands, cold feet, you could have a tendency to hypoglycemia, you could have a tendency to high cholesterol, you could be fatigued. And unless your energy is a 10 on a scale of 0 to 10, anything less than a 10 is some degree of fatigue. So even if your energy is an 8 or 9, that's still not perfect. There's still room for improvement. What else? Overweight, difficult weight loss, tendency to dry skin, tendency to constipation.
I used to have all those things.
Hair loss, loss of libido.
That's a very dangerous one. Loss of libido. That's like death.
That's like death.
Libido and death. Which do you choose?
I personally prefer libido.
Well, obviously. So without libido, you should choose death.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
No, without libido, we should probably fix your thyroid and testosterone.
That's if you come to us. If not, you choose death.
Oh my God.
Now, if you have low libido and we find your thyroid is low and your testosterone is low, if we fix only one of those two issues, your libido probably will not come back. We have to fix both issues
at the same time.
What else? There is
there is almost an epidemic of low libido.
Yes, there is.
So please, don't be ashamed. without libido, you should choose death or choose us. And come, let's fix it.
Mission statement.
Very important.
All right, so what other symptoms? Well, there tends to be a tendency to depression, tends to be a tendency to anxiety, tends to be a tendency to irritability. Typically, sleeping is off, either difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or going back to sleep, or maybe all of the above.
These are all the challenges that a lot of men complain about their wives. That's why they don't want to have sex.
There you
They
go.
have all these 25 issues. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
fix the thyroid,
Yeah, we
fix
can
the
fix it.
adrenals,
Yeah.
and life returns to
Abundance.
abundance.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the word.
Yes.
Yes.
So, what other symptoms? Well, patients with a low thyroid will tend to be sensitive to heat. Hot weather bothers them. They will also tend to be sensitive to cold.
Cold.
In other words, their temperature tolerance is very narrow.
Yeah.
If it's a little too hot, they're miserable. If it's a little too cold,
Because I
they're
always wonder about that. People say, "Oh, isn't it hot when I'm wearing my suit?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." And even when it's cold like this, I'm also fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a good thing. So people are always like, too cold or too hot.
yeah.
That's a challenge,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, now what else? For women, women with low thyroid will tend to have irregular periods. They will tend to have too many days of bleeding. Instead of 3 to 5 days, they might have 5 to 7 days, or maybe even 10 days of bleeding.
Wonderful.
They will tend to have painful periods. They will tend to have PMS. They will tend to have miscarriages. They will tend to have infertility.
So these are even young women.
Even
right?
young women,
Wow,
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thyroid and adrenals, guys, is some serious shit. So make sure you come meet Dr. Johnson so that we can have a deep look into your reasons why your libido is lousy. Come talk to us. Looks like we have questions.
So someone said, is a symptom of thyroid, low thyroid, being very fatigued and sleepy, because she tends
Yes.
to get sleepy
Yes.
a lot.
Yes, being fatigued and sleepy, yes, definitely. Now, a moment
It's
ago,
not just that you're lazy, it's your thyroid, okay?
a moment ago, I mentioned that people with low thyroid may have difficulty falling asleep,
Sleep.
staying asleep,
Sleep.
or going back to sleep.
Sleep.
At the opposite extreme, some patients with low thyroid sleep too much.
Yeah.
They sleep 12 hours a day and they still never feel rested. So
Interesting.
sleep problems, either too little or too much, can be from low thyroid.
Yes?
So should everyone check their free T3 and free T4? Should that be like a requirement everyone should do, or is there a
Well-
certain age that you should do that at?
You know, when I start with a patient, I do an initial consultation. I ask a zillion questions about their health and what symptoms they may or may not have, including the 25 symptoms of low thyroid. If they only have 1 or 2 symptoms of low thyroid, then odds are it's going to be something else. So
Okay.
I wouldn't say everybody needs the testing, but most people do, because most people have several of those symptoms.
So we have our brand ambassador who's going to be joining us.
Okay, cool.
We want to see where her thyroid levels are. We're going to ask her a few questions.
Okay.
Right? And we're going to test whether her thyroid is performing. So step
Hi,
into the
guys.
middle. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Well,
morning.
I was listening to this thing about thyroids and libido, and I was looking at you. Where's your libido? Is it like off the cliff or it is rising?
I don't think I have any problems.
What do you mean problems? It could be that it's so low you don't even realize that it's a problem.
Maybe,
Is that
but-
what you mean? That it's too low and therefore not a problem?
I would like to say it's pretty normal,
Oh.
but I will
Compared
say
to what?
Kinda high.
compared to, well, I have nothing else to compare it to.
So that's why Dr.
So-
Johnson
Well-
is here to determine where your libido should be.
But most
So I don't die. Okay, go ahead.
most people can get a pretty good idea if we say, okay, how is your libido today compared to when you were 18 or 20?
How is it?
I feel like it's the same.
Oh, it has not increased?
No.
Oh, wow.
I don't
Then
think- I don't
she
think
looks
it-
like and it hasn't dropped also.
No, I
But
would
that's
like to
dangerous
say-
for you, having that kind of
Well-
libido.
Possibly.
From when you were 18.
Is it a
Right?
good or bad thing? thing.
No, it's
Let me
dangerous.
see this. I have not
Charles
noticed
is pulling
a
your
difference.
leg.
Oh, okay.
He's pulling your
Okay,
leg.
I wasn't sure. But last time I brought this up because you did give me a thyroid medication.
Yes.
Yes,
Since we're
that's
talking about
the bio-identical.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have been taking it.
Yes.
And I know there was a few symptoms I had that, I should,
Yeah.
and I feel better. I
Okay.
feel more.
How long have you been taking this now?
It's been about, like, almost 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks.
Okay. So
Because-
in another 2 weeks, it'll be time to retest. So we can start
Oh.
adjusting
Soon,
and
soon
fine
I
tuning.
should test
Yeah.
too, because I'm doing the testosterone and that, and I can assure you,
Oh my god.
it is an exciting experience.
I am sure.
So please, if you
very
want to
happy
really
for
be
you.
excited
I'm
about
really happy for
your
you.
performance and your libido, come talk to us.
Or die.
Or die.
One or the other.
Kill yourself.
What's
Kill
the
yourself.
point being alive
What's
when
the
you have
point?
no libido?
Oh, please let's not send that message.
Yeah, so but that's interesting that
Yes.
you have been on this.
I have.
And it's really improved
I
things
have.
for you. Wonderful.
And honestly, it's not something, I'm young, so I never really even thought it was a thing. Like, my
Mm.
mom has a thyroid problem, but I never thought, like, it would matter. But
How
it
do
really
you know
does.
she has a thyroid problem?
She's tested and all that.
All right, is she here
Yeah.
in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah, yes. She's in
Oh,
Torrance.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so she should come to the lab.
Yeah, she
Right,
should.
so that we can see how her libido too is,
Oh.
right?
I don't ask those questions.
Obviously,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it's mother, right? But it's important. You don't want your mother to choose that.
That is true.
Yes.
Yeah, we want her.
Yeah, there's a question.
There's a question. What are the symptoms of hyperthyroidism?
Hyperthyroidism.
When it's
okay.
too high.
Okay, so hyperthyroidism, excuse me, is basically going to make you feel as if you can't talk. Do we have some water available?
Yes, drink some water quickly. Okay.
Okay, so high thyroid is basically going to make you feel as if you've had 20 cups of coffee. You're going to feel like you're in overdrive. Your heart's racing, you're feeling jittery, you may have some anxiety, you may have some hair loss. Too much thyroid or too little thyroid
Would cause
can cause hair
hair
loss.
loss, yeah.
Too much or too little can cause palpitations.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Now,
Yeah, Dr.
one of
Johnson.
the, thank you. One of the classic symptoms of too much thyroid, and not all patients with too much thyroid develop this, but it is common. The eyes start to bug out, to bulge.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Because I know a couple of people who have those bulging eyeballs.
Yeah.
I thought it's because they look too hard.
Well, in some people, that can just be their physiognomy. That's just
They
them.
like staring.
That's just who they are. But for somebody who's had normal-looking eyes and then they start to bug out.
My grandfather used to say those eyes want to run out of the face. They're going faster than your face is moving.
It must be.
Yeah, so that's why they're up there, moving faster than the face. Yeah, well, now we know the answer to that. That's amazing. Well, thank you.
Oh, the
Go
other,
ahead, Dr.
yeah,
Johnson.
the other one would typically be unwanted weight loss.
Or where you're just so small, you can't.
Right.
I would like to have that problem.
Well, theoretically, you could help people gain weight by overdosing them or lose weight by overdosing them on thyroid, but that would be a really bad idea. That's
Yes,
not a
not
healthy
a good
thing.
thing
We
to
would
do.
never ever do that.
Yeah.
We don't ever want to overdose anybody on thyroid. We want to bring them to high normal,
Yeah.
but not high.
So I was worried whether the thyroid, the bioidentical thyroid might make you lose some of the assets.
Well, now that I know that, that's
Oh, you were getting worried about the
No,
losing of the assets.
Well, you said you lost a little here,
Yes.
so maybe I need to double up. You
No,
know?
no.
I'm just kidding.
No.
Because if you did, you might lose all of that, and then you
No,
show up
no.
here and will be like, "Well, who's that?"
No, it just doesn't go away. It,
Alright.
it doesn't matter. But I
Alright.
have noticed that it does give more energy, so
Uh-huh.
that's why it makes sense.
Yeah.
You said take it, or it said take it in the morning. Because one time I had a very long night. Woke up around 2 p.m. and I took it, and I was up.
Wow.
That same evening, I was
That's
up
wild.
pretty late because maybe it's just the energy factor. Is that?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, you're just more awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like it when I'm up bright and early.
You take
and
melatonin, right?
I don't. I've never. No.
Yeah, you should be. Why is she
Okay.
not on melatonin?
How old are you?
I'm 29.
29.
Okay, she doesn't need
She
it.
may not need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she has up hours and down hours with libido staying normal, so we may need melatonin to manage it.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, thank you for joining
Thank you
us,
for having
Una,
me.
and Dr. Johnson.
My
thank
pleasure.
you. So next week we'll continue with our series of conversations with Dr. Johnson. Love us, like us, share us, and please do ask questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.